Hello, my dear friends. This is tarot reader Yulia Petrova. I'm glad to see you again on the Tarot Yulia Petrova channel. Today we have another tarot reading. Today's reading is about Iran. We're going to go over everything together today. Once again, for those who are new to the channel or have just recently joined us, this is not a news report. This is a tarot reading. It's neutral, without any bias or implication that we are connected to any particular country here. I live in the States, but even so, my heart aches for every country where there is war. I want to make that clear. And I believe the most important thing is to preserve and maintain our humanity. That's it. And of course, we still need to think positively, but the reading should always be honest. So if you're not ready for neutral or uncertain outcomes from a reading, if you only want positivity, please, this isn't the channel for you, because I predict and prepare people for upcoming events. All right, let's get started. So today's reading will be done with the shamanic oracle and tarot. A shaman friend of mine from Mexico told me that I can use the shamanic oracle and that it won't negatively affect my practice. Although I'll tell you right away, I don't practice shamanism. I've been practicing magic and esotericism for over 5 years now, but I'm not a shaman. I just happen to have this awesome oracle deck. All right, let's get started. Let's see what's happening in Iran right now. What's going on in Iran at the moment? Give me the facts quickly so I can understand the real situation. I mean, I'm not interested in what they show on the news, right? Because there's a lot of misinformation. I need to see what's really happening, right? I mean, what is being shown to me esoterically? What is the Almighty showing me? Where am I sending my request? So, the first thing I have to tell you is that this is, of course, a very serious moment of lessons they are going through. Right now, they realize that these positions of war are not beneficial for them. A lot will really have to change here, and a lot of things simply won't be possible to carry out according to the original plans. The country's government is very, very agitated, rebellious, and ready to take serious, radical actions. But at the same time, there's another side, right? There's the Houthi and Shiite sides. They have, so to speak, different religious views. And basically, from a certain perspective, it's possible that this lack of agreement between them will be put on pause, and at some point, Iran's power will actually split into these two clans. Right now, it's all in one set of hands, so to speak, right? But here, it will split in two. That's something to keep in mind. And the views of Iran's political figures will also change. They'll start choosing a different direction. Right now, at this moment, Iran is weak in terms of resources. It's clear that a lot of really drastic decisions have been made and some sharp events have happened, maybe ones that will have even worse consequences in the near future, because the situation that's unfolding before our eyes has been handled with a bit too much extremity, with the kind of radical approach. They should have acted a bit more gently. They see and understand this now as a fact, as a conclusion. What else is happening? Of course, we even had not a reading, but a short video where I told you that once July 4th is over, yes, Iran will start over again. Yes, July 4th is Independence Day in the US, 250 years, an anniversary, a jubilee. They didn't want to have a war during this date, so that everything would be recorded cleanly in history. That's why you need to understand that, once again, all our predictions are coming true. And this too, yes. The war started right after July 4th, either on the 5th or the 6th. So once again, our predictions are coming true. And the next thing I want to tell you is that Iran needs help, the help they were counting on from the beginning, but at some point, they themselves refused it. Apparently, there were allies that Iran turned down here. And now this ally is already setting certain conditions. Although there are negotiations and discussions going on, and maybe now Iran will have some international meetings with leaders from other countries. But they need to preserve this home. At the same time, Iran wants to liberate territories, even including Israel. Here, too, they would like to acquire these lands, and in general, they would like to expand the country as well. Yes, so this current government wants to expand its influence, but nevertheless, it's clear that they aren't acting as effectively now, and they lack the resources necessary to achieve these goals. We have the King of Pentacles and the Strength card here. These cards indicate that the US really holds a key position here, which is disadvantageous for Iran at the moment. Nevertheless, there is a possibility that they will strike at, go even further and start destroying or demolishing some organizations or buildings belonging to Donald Trump himself, right? That is, for example, in Muslim countries. So if this really happens, it will be a direct challenge to Trump, of course, and an attempt to disrupt and damage his business and so on, his income. But I'll say this, changes are already happening in these countries anyway. So, what else? The neighbor is making a profit here instead of Iran. Iran is going to lose income in the near future. This prediction is already coming true for us. I predict, as the higher powers tell me, that what's happening here is that the countries neighboring Iran will start receiving income. Iran will get stabbed in the back in the near future. Why? Because here we have the Emperor card and the Three of Swords. I think they were counting on Russia. Here, the cards are definitely about Russia. And of course, the opportunities that Russia provided are coming to an end. In other words, the resources will run out and they'll need new resources, new help. They also need intelligence. Intelligence that is currently working exclusively for Russia. All intelligence efforts are now focused on strengthening Russia's integrity. And in this way, Iran is losing the opportunity to have its most important and experienced ally. That is the Russian Federation. Definitely. The Fool card, the Five of Swords. This means the struggle continues, and even the loss of some buildings or major significant sites, right? And possibly even the beginning of territorial losses for Iran, or maybe a split. And the kind of structure that Iran represents now, it will no longer represent. A huge amount of money will be invested in this again this time. Let's see if the European Union will come to the aid of the US at this moment. I don't think so. I think that they will. Well, partially.
Wow.
Because some countries will still abstain, and some countries will now choose to support the US after all. They will support the US very little. The US will get stabbed in the back, Ten of Swords, with the Hanged Man, right? So there will be a kind of waiting period when help won't even be needed anymore, right? So that's how the story will go. The next point is that there's a certain woman, a representative of the European Union, and she's showing us that we shouldn't help the US. We should take care of ourselves. Why? Because there are tensions, there's also preparation for war, right? There's fear that Russia might strike. There's fear that a war will start and that the slow destruction, the gradual disintegration of NATO into molecules, which was happening from the beginning, will continue, right? And Trump will once again say that NATO, again, that some countries either need to be removed from there or we should just stop sponsoring and supporting NATO altogether, right? Because at this point, it just doesn't make any logical sense anymore. And the Three of Cups, yes, like some kind of unity, a one-time gathering. There will be some meeting here regarding this Iran-US war. But the European Union is afraid that it will lose resources and won't have time to defend itself from Russia. And there, as we remember, the campaign begins against Poland and the Baltic countries, or the Baltic states. What awaits Iran? What are the prerequisites? Iran will still receive support from those it never expected, countries that have never been close to Iran. And most likely, it won't really be Russia. Russia will provide more of a moral support. Financial support from Russia is insufficient here. In fact, it's practically non-existent, right? Assistance, for example, even in intelligence, right? So there's secrecy involved here. The secret won't be revealed, even by friends. Here, the Seven of Swords means that Iran will be deceived. A lot of what they were counting on won't happen. They won't get what they expected, right? In other words, they won't get what they wanted. And there could be yet another attack from Israel. Why? Because of the Three of Wands and the Two of Wands. We're expecting new developments from the neighbor. Here, it's the neighbor. And again, we have the Ten of Wands. It'll be very hard for them. They'll put on a show that Iran is strong, holding firm, everyone is ready, focused, aiming, yes, ready to act. Events are unfolding quickly, but it feels like there's not enough energy. The strength isn't shown here. The energy level is weak. Next. Listen, let's use the oracle. The shamanic oracle that I prepared. Let's do it. What do we get right away? Okay. So at some point, look, there's another country that's clearly involved. Yes. Yes, it's a quiet country that's taken action. Here, I suspect China. Why? Because the stranger card is about those who are supporting this Israeli conflict. Sorry, I mean the Iranian conflict. It's a country where people are different, not by nationality, not by appearance, not at all. They're probably not even Muslims. So most likely, we're talking about China, friends, right? So this is more of a war between China and the US here. That's what the cards are showing. That's your shamanic oracle, right? Vanishing mirror. This is ego sublimation. A lot of things the US thought would be very simple turned out to be much more complicated. But nevertheless, it's not necessary or important for Iran to be completely destroyed here. What's important is that it remains in some form. But at the same time, this Iran will be divided into a Chinese Iran, yes, a part that is Chinese Iran, and a part that is American Iran. It's possible there will even be a reformation of the lands with new names. Maybe these will be expanded territories, right? That is, with some additional countries joining in here and becoming completely different states. So this is also about the division of territory here, right? It's like a bridge, right? Something that connects. It could be a peninsula, for example, that gets separated and becomes an island. Or it could be the breakthrough of some kind of canals through which everything passes. Yes, new transportation routes. So, in the end, China will be losing out here. Ultimately, the US will be acting strategically and moving forward. China's doing well, but apparently the states have more experience here. And of course, the first breath, yes, that's important here. And the reconciliation war in 3, this could be some states that were against Iran, they're Muslim, but now they'll turn toward Iran, though with the goal of grabbing a piece of territory for themselves. That clear? It's all very interesting. The cards are beautiful, by the way. Next. How will this affect things economically in general? After all, as it turned out, Iran became such an important player and was, yes, one that was underestimated when it came to oil and so on. This turned out to be a very serious situation. Let's see what we can expect regarding the crisis. Will there be a crisis, or will there still be? So, look, I'm telling you that one solution will be found, and the states will take the lead here, in this area. On the other hand, the states will still go through a crisis no matter what. This is an undeniable fact. The cards show it as a fact that the states will go through an even stronger crisis, and prices will definitely rise. You can be sure of that. And not just in the states, of course, but all over the world. If there's a crisis in the US, there's a crisis everywhere. You have to understand that even when we look at the relationships between the US, China, Iran, Russia, or whoever, there are two leaders, the states and China. Now it's not just the states like it used to be, but the states and China. And now these two leaders have to share power. Their goal isn't to destroy each other. You need to understand that. You can see it from the situation too. I'm not seeing total destruction of everything here either. But still, you obviously need to draw your own conclusions in that direction, and I obviously need to draw my own conclusions in that direction, that here, China still wants to maintain its relationship with the US. Right now, it's just a matter of dividing up how much influence the US and China will each have. No more, no less. No one wants to completely destroy or crush the other, and so on. On the contrary, China wants to completely dominate the entire right hemisphere and have enormous power there. That's why we're seeing cards of a new dawn here. It's possible that new weapons will be used here. This won't happen right at the beginning, it'll come later. Why? Because there are still a lot of events that will unfold around Iran. The situation with Iran won't even be resolved this year. In other words, it will keep going on and on. That's clear, right? And the consequences will be huge. I think this major crisis will last at least 50 years. Here's the question we talked about. The situation with Iran is dragging on. Let me answer you. The crisis is dragging on. So, as I told you, everything will only start to unfold by winter. That's really how it is. So, that's my analysis on Iran for you today. Thank you for being with me. I hope this analysis was useful to you. You might take some useful from this. For those of you who are traders who are into trading and watching me for oil, please be very careful. Be very cautious trading oil and any other stocks related to oil and other resources right now. Back The future definitely belongs to other resources, not oil. You can see this in global trends, in production, and in the seminar I gave about money. Still, everything will definitely become explosive later on, without a doubt. We're only moving forward, and the crisis is just gaining momentum. If you think the crisis is behind us and we're about to get out of it, no, that's not the case, guys. This is just the beginning. Unfortunately, but I have to prepare you. It's my job to make predictions. If you're here on this channel, it means that's what you came for. You came for predictions to protect yourself, or to get an alternative point of view from the cards, right? Or let's say you came here to get some extra information that you won't find anywhere else, because this channel is truly unique. And we really have the honor and integrity to constantly show you videos about how many of our readings, how many of our spreads actually come true. It's a huge amount of work. And I thank each of you for your support. This was Yulia Petrova with you. See you soon. Wishing you health, wealth, and happiness.